Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. I am your host, Giles. A few weeks ago, a fella called Hove Clockend asked a question to me and a few other guys. He wanted to know if we could record a podcast with the Bsm guys and the guys from Shewore, talking about ticket prices and fan action and so on and so forth. And we got together and me and the guys have decided to do one here over the bank holiday weekend. So joining me tonight on two members of the BSM, we've got both Kelvin. How you doing, mate? You right?
Yeah, fine, mate. Happy Easter to all you little bunnies out there.
Good man. Raj, how you doing, sir? You good?
Always a pleasure, Giles. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm chipper, mate. And also from Shewore, we've got GC. Hello, GC. How are you, mate? You right?
Yeah, good evening.
Good man. Good man. All right, so let's kick off. Before we get into all the other topics, I just want to get a sort of a brief history of BSM, because to be honest with you, I think the first I heard of you guys was probably 2010 or 2011. There was some kind of statement, a mission statement, and I wasn't sure what you guys were about, because there were a lot of mixed messages on our. I used to be in an Arsenal forum. There's a lot of mixed messages as to what you guys were about, what the mission statement. Are you tackling the board or the manager or whatever? I wasn't completely sure. So. Can we start, Kelvin, by telling me how you guys came about and why you came about?
Yeah, well, like a load of good things with the Arsenal, it starts with a few blokes in the pub having a chat, and we're all getting a little bit fed up with the way that the club was going. So rather than just sitting there just talking about it, we decided to actually do something about it. And so we came out with a mission statement, which has always been about the way the club is being run and how it was in the past and our fears for the future if they carried on that way. And we made it very clear, and anybody who actually took time to read our statement on the website should be under no illusions of what we were about. But back in those days, and even to a certain degree now, people would always try to look at us as saying, no, your agenda really is about Wenger. It's nothing to do with people running the club. It's about Wenger. And at every single occasion, we've put people right on it. But basically, I think a lot of the misconceptions was people's laziness, really, about going to read the site. They'll pick up on what somebody else has said and repeat that. But when we got people together, we quite often, I'll turn around to people and say, look, come and have a word with me down the pub instead. Right? It wasn't a threat. It was an invitation to come and have a chat. And of course, they'll come down, they'll have a listen to what we've got to say. They go, yeah. Well, that's all the things that I'm thinking. So I said, well, there you go then. And that's what it is. And, hopefully we've turned a lot of people round on that original misconception.
Raj, can you tell me what kind of advertising campaigns were you guys about? I mean, how did you get your names and your statement out to the wider general public?
It had to be in your face, really, because we weren't like any of the other groups at the time, where we weren't really prepared to engage with the club to start off with, but we had to get the name out there pretty quickly. And in 2011, the first thing we did was we did a kind of relatively positive thing, which was a Rocky Remembered celebration of Rocky Rocastle at the Rocket, along with the AST, to raise money for Great Ormond Street. And I think that night, we raised about 12 grand, 12 or 13 grand between the two groups, which was brilliant. And we had Alan Davies and all sorts going on.
We also had a lot of help from Red Action as well.
Yeah, that's right, Red Action. Yeah, and so that was a start. But what we had to do is do something pretty big, which would bring it to the attention of every single Arsenal fan, or most Arsenal fans, especially those ones that went to the stadium. So we got a little tip from a friend of ours, Matthew Bazell, who's the author of Theatre of Silence, which is a great book for any football fan to read. I'm not plugging that just because he's a mate, but because it is a brilliant read. And he said, look, these billboards around the ground are up for hire. You should ring up the advertising company and see if you could maybe use one of the billboards. So I rang up Clear Channel, and they said, oh, there is a billboard outside the what we call the Bear Roundabout, and it's available at a certain time. This is how much it costs. Do you want to use it? And we said, yes, please. We raised the funds, and sometime in kind of September of 2011, we put up this massive billboard on that roundabout, which is just the black kind of black background, and in yellow it had forward ? Because that season the team shirts had forward on the badges. So we decided to take the piss a little bit and put ? Next to it, saying, "Are we really going forward?" And it was outside Ivan Gazidis' office, and we booked it for about 2 weeks, and Clear Channel forgot to take it down, so it was up for 6 weeks, about 4 home games, and basically some people loved it, but I would say, to be honest, the majority hated it. The majority of Arsenal fans hated it, and I personally will always be proud of it. I'm sure Kelvin is as well, and Mark, who was involved as well, for the pure reason that it was the best bit of PR for the group. It was negative PR because it did rile a lot of people up, but it got us into the forefront of people's minds, and people started to talk about us, whether it's good or bad, how they talked about us. It got there. So it was the best bit of advertising we've ever done.
Now, obviously, in those halcyon days, if I want to call it that, you guys had lots of activities going on, and I remember on my forum, loads of people on my forum were talking about boat parties. Gav, I want to bring you in, and just to bring you in along with these guys. Tell me how did the boat party thing come about?
I think it was probably down. I think that was Mark's idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Mark. Mark decided we just wanted to. The thing is, we've sold some scarves and we've sold a few beanies over the years and stuff like that. Our cost to run the group is virtually nothing, just the website, a few bits and pieces. So we've always said that with any money left over, because none of us are taking the penny for it. We're all kind of, I wouldn't say volunteers, we're kind of passionate fans who've given up time to campaign for certain issues surrounding the club and football in general. Most recently, more football than the club. But yeah, I mean, we just did a couple of boat parties. Mark organised it, and it was for fun on a match day. But we raised some money, and whatever profits we did, we put to Willow on one occasion, to Great Ormond Street again on the second occasion. So it was
stuff of legend, aren't they? They've become the boat parties have become sort of like the stuff of legend. Like,
well, they were just
there. Remember when you were
They were just enormous drunken.
Yeah, the first ones to do the boat parties were Red Action. They used to do boat parties to when we used to play Fulham away, and right. We went on one of those, and it was a cracking day. I mean, the sun was shining as well, and we thought, well, we could do something like this. And I think on the day that we organised, or Mark, I should say Mark organised it, and Gav did a lot of advertising for it through Shewore, that there were actually 4 boatloads of Arsenal fans out on the river that day. 2 from Red Action, 1 from us, and I think the Junior Gunners even had one as well. So the tourists walking across the bridges as we were going underneath our various boats was amazing. It was a cracking atmosphere. And also as well, on that first boat trip, there was a lot of people that came along on it who really thought that we had this agenda about Arsene Wenger. And there was a group of young lads, I can't remember where they're from now, Essex way I think it is. And
Bridge House boys, weren't they?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And we got chatting to them, and then they turned around and said, "Well, we didn't realise this is what you were standing for. We thought all you wanted to do was get Wenger out of the club." And I said to one of the lads, I said, "I'll tell you what," I said, "if you go on our website or any interaction that we've had on the internet through social media and find somewhere on there where someone from the BSM has said this is about Wenger out," I said, "I will buy you your drinks for the rest of the season." Well, you couldn't find anything, so I should have reversed it round. I said, "If you can't find it, but you can buy mine." But I never got in that quick. but it's like a lot of things when on Twitter in 140 characters, as we all know, it's very difficult to try and get a message across. But when you actually meet with the people and talk with them, then they fully understand what we're all about, And it's the feelings that we know that a lot of these fans have held themselves, but nobody was around to sort of help galvanise their thoughts, if you like, and trying to turn it into some form of action. And that's what we did at the beginning, and hopefully we'll continue to do so.
Good stuff. Ticket prices. I mean, you guys are quite. That's one of your major topics and one of your major agendas, or for want of a better phrase. Why did you guys focus on ticket prices and fan atmosphere and such like? Why did you think that was a key thing to focus on, Raj?
Go on,
Gav. Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. No, go on. If Raj wants.
No, you do it.
Go ahead, Gav. Go on.
Yeah, I think it's just mainly because that's what everybody talks about. And I mean, like I say, even my granddad talks about when they put the price up to a penny and he had the ump over it. I mean, everyone's always going to get the ump over increasing ticket prices. But if you go back to the literature that was originally come out on the move to the Emirates, a lot of it was based on, £10 a ticket. There's going to be £10, tickets for games and stuff. And all right, they've sort of fulfilled that for the League Cup games. But the initial impression was that ticket prices were going to go down because at Highbury we was always told, well, look, demand is high and it's a small ground and we have to charge high prices. When we move, the ticket prices will go down. And everybody was rightly sort of excited about that, really. But like I say, it just didn't happen and ticket prices have rocketed up since then. And I think the reason why, the BSM started talking about it is because that's what we was all talking about as mates.
Right.
So okay. The other thing as well with ticket prices, I mean maybe it's too early to touch on it right now, but with the TV deals that we've got in the latest one that's going to come in, we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes with the Football Supporters Federation, and they come up with some really interesting facts and figures. With the current deal, a Premier League club, without losing any revenue, could reduce their ticket prices by £41 each game and will still get the same amount of money as they earn for this season. So in some places, where I think at Norwich, their price is 26 quid, in theory, their fans could be paid £15 to go and watch Norwich City play, right? And it still wouldn't affect the amount of money that goes into the club because this is how big the TV money has become. And I think Wenger has quoted somewhere that as far as ticket money is concerned, that doesn't come into it when he goes to deal with transfers, etc. Because the money that they work off is from the TV. So what a lot of these football clubs, and especially the Premier League, who have got this brand that they're putting out around the world, they seem to forget that without the crowds that go along to watch these games, they haven't got anything to sell because nobody wants to watch football in an empty stadium. They don't have a product. Now, if I was going along to see something like The X Factor or Ant and Dec or any other TV show that's being recorded, my ticket is free of charge because without the audience, those shows are rubbish. And we've all seen, I don't watch them because, the crowds in actually wind me up too much with their over-enthusiasm, if you like. But that's what attracts a lot of people to it. Now, if you did the same at a football match, your football match is being televised. Sorry, you're not playing at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon now. You're playing at 8 o'clock on a Monday night. But as some sort of compensation, your ticket's going to be greatly subsidised. What a great thing that would be. And fans then will probably end up spending money anyway, but they would spend it maybe down in the club shop or something, or they will buy something to eat. But a lot of people now, because of the prices of the tickets, all they'll spend is they'll get their ticket, they'll get to the ground at 5 to 3, they'll be out the door straight away, and they'll be off. And then the only money they've spent with the club is their ticket money. And I'm sure all around, if the club looked at things long term, they could get themselves more money long term by reducing ticket prices. Might sound silly, but the logic's there.
I think you make a good point about the fans being the product, the key component in the product. If you look at the Spanish football matches where fans don't travel away to see their teams, and you can see there's no atmosphere in the ground in a lot of Spanish grounds, and I think the Premier League will be playing sort of a dicey game with that. But it just seems as though no matter what the clubs do, whether they freeze them or put them up or whatever, fans, they can't tear themselves away, can they, Gav? I mean, it's not as easy as. It's not that easy for some people. We're mug punters, a lot of us, but it's hard to tear yourself away from it.
That's the thing. I mean, they've got a monopoly on our affections. I mean, you're talking about people that have got 2, 3, 4, 5 generations of family that have gone football. I mean, I spent the afternoon today with my kids, my mum, and my grandparents. And, my granddad's 90, and we're talking about Arsenal games. So it's like a family thing. And, everyone's saying, you're going to go over there next. I'm saying, well, next time I've got a few quid, I'll go and blah, blah, blah. And that's just how it's always been with my family. When my family's got together, when my great uncles were about and everything, the talk at family meetings is Arsenal. And it's, people that say, oh, don't complain about the ticket prices, go and watch, go and watch a local club, or, when you're talking about your views on Arsene Wenger, fuck off down the lane. It's not like that. They've got a complete monopoly on our affections. And as you said, we're not mug punters. We're doing it because we love going Arsenal, and because we want to go Arsenal more, and we want to see our mates who have been priced out going Arsenal more. And I guess like what a lot of younger people don't realise is, when we were teenagers and when we were in our early 20s, on a Saturday morning, you have a phone around, you meet at the station, or you meet at the pub up there, and then you all go in. You pay on the door and you all go in. You all stand together, and, I mean, they were really, really great times. Now, for example, for myself as a silver member, I have to book a ticket up 2 months in advance, and then find out that the game gets moved from a Saturday 3 p.m. to a Monday night, and it's rubbish. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't be able to buy a ticket for an event that gets moved, and it's not just like the one-off. It's literally 2/3 of the games now get moved, and it's. I just don't think it's just not right. It's just killing your desire to go, unfortunately.
Right.
Do you guys think? Sorry, I just want to ask you a question, actually, if that's all right, Giles. Just the three of you. But all these fan groups that Arsenal, but now it's actually gone national, isn't it? Really, with a lot of supporters groups going on about pricing, and it's taken 5 or 6 years, and you could see signs of it, things starting to slowly change. What with a £30 away ticket cap, but in the future, I've got the suspicion that fan groups from all clubs are going to go after the TV companies now, because they are actually making fans' lives more of a misery than pricing itself by, as Gavin quite rightly said, by switching dates and times at short notice. So do you think fan groups might go after the TV companies over the next few years, because they're a natural target now, aren't they?
Kelvin, do you want to go on?
Yeah, I think that is going to be the way ahead. I mean, we've jumped ahead a little bit from what we was going to be talking about a little bit later with the other, the other nationwide groups. But yeah, with the £30 cap on the away tickets. Now, I had somebody complain to me straight away as soon as that came out. I said, well, yeah, that's all right with the away fans, but what about the home fans? Well, that's the next step, is to get something for the home fans as well. But with the away fans, with Arsenal, virtually every game that we play is a Category A game, and we get charged, our away fans, who are immense, absolutely immense, our away fans, so much respect for them, for what they have to do and put up with. But now, they're going to pay 30 quid to go, rather than have to pay 60 quid. And that's a huge saving for those people, especially with all their travel arrangements, etc. And then if we can start doing that for the home fans as well, even better.
I've got some stats on that for you. I knew this was coming up, so I pulled out a blog that Keno's done a few months ago. Basically, for Arsenal charge this season, £648.50 for away fans to come to the Emirates. Yeah.
Yep.
For an Arsenal fan to go every single game away, it's between £833 and £850. So which is, that's huge. So like I say, it's because, as you said, we're everybody's Category A game. But going down to the £30 plus, there's a £4 cap that Arsenal are keeping on now.
Yeah, £26 it's gone down to, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it'd be 26 quid plus the booking fee and postal and, £1.50 this, £1.50 that they're added on there anyway. But I mean, it is good. I mean, it's going to cut it down to it's going to save about £380 for somebody that's on the away scheme or somebody that goes every away game. But like you said, the problem is the travel as well. You book up to go an away game if you're lucky enough to have 40 credits to book an away game these days, and then the time gets changed. So if you book up, your 2 or 3 months in advance for your train ticket, then you've lost your train ticket. What they do in Newcastle, and I believe it's Virgin Railways now, if the Newcastle or Sunderland away game gets changed from the Saturday, they honour the ticket so that you can get there and back to the game. But they're only actually doing that from Newcastle, though.
Yeah, it's not. I know that. I think it was Leicester City fans had that problem Valentine's Day, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's Arsenal fans as well. I mean, like I say, there's a lot of Arsenal fans now who have moved out of London, and some Arsenal fans for a home game will travel 100, 200 miles. The Scottish boys, I mean, they travel the length of the country every home game.
It's definitely something. You didn't Arsenal say that they when the Premier League clubs had that meeting, one of their initiatives was to tackle the travel and sort of get subsidised travel, but that sort of got pushed to the background as the clubs voted for the £30 cap. Do you think? I mean, I asked the question. I asked Mark Ganilla, why don't you continue as independently as a standalone as a club, tackle that sort of that dilemma? I mean, that could be a short win. I mean, obviously the home ticket prices, they've frozen the home ticket prices for the next few years. That's a longer sort of, issue, a longer term issue. But surely, having their own independent initiative for travel is a short term win, isn't it, Raj? Wouldn't you think?
It is, but I mean, you need all the Premier League clubs to agree on all these things. I don't think any club, including Arsenal, got the bollocks to go on their own for some of these initiatives because they don't want to seem to be at that kind of inner circle. So I personally don't think that'll ever happen. But when they make these little moves like the £30 price cap and stuff, I think all groups have got to applaud it. And people, as Reg said, some people will go on about home ticket prices. Well, that is the next step. But when things go right, you've got to step back and say, well done, and give them the kind of the plaudits for it, really. But we can't keep moaning on about stuff, and we have to recognise that things are slowly changing. Now it's at national level. It's completely different. When 5 years ago, it was BSM, AST, going on about Arsenal ticket prices and stuff, and it seemed like we were the only club going on about it, but it did. But in reality, every club, Liverpool, Everton, every club had groups that were moaning on about their own ticket pricing. So it was only when FSF and Spirit Shankly, BSM, AST all got together and actually made it a national issue that the media picked it up, and then the pressure was just unbearable for the clubs, and they had to do something. So £30 was the least they could do. And hopefully over the next 2 or 3 years that we can put more pressure on to look at other avenues as well to help the lot of the football fan.
And Raj, going back to your question that you asked about fans turning on the TV companies, how do you see that panning out? I mean, how would you envisage that panning out? Do you think
easier protest? That is such an easy protest. People will be going on about protests for the last few weeks about what's been going on at the club with the results and there's this ongoing manager debate and all this kind of stuff, and some people will be tweeting me saying, why don't you all organise a Wenger out march? Well, I personally would not organise a Wenger out march. I certainly wouldn't walk a Wenger out march. And then there's been other things about, well, why don't we all stay away from a game and come in 20 minutes late? Well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for those reasons, But if you had a protest against the TV companies, and can you imagine the TV companies realising that they're televising a game and no one's turned up for it, or no one, it's empty for the first 20 minutes, you might have a better chance of organising a protest. Because I think, much as we keep going on about our own clubs being at fault for certain things, and sure, they've got stuff to do still, the TV companies getting away with murder. They must be laughing. And I've been thinking that for a few months now. They must be laughing. They can change. What was that game they moved a few weeks ago to, within 2 weeks' notice or something? Was it Leicester or Hull or
Yeah,
something?
it was Leicester. Leicester was a Valentine's.
Yeah, they changed it from a Saturday to Sunday with 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah.
I know personally, a mate of mine was going to bring his 2 kids to the Leicester game, and it was their first ever Arsenal home game. 7-year-olds, and they were very, very excited, as you'd expect. And then they moved it, and they couldn't go on the Sunday, and these 2 kids were distraught.
Yeah.
And I think it's really unfair. 2 weeks' notice, even for the away fans, they've booked their travel, they've booked their trains, possibly hotels, possibly even days off.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. And I will argue that it's not the club's fault. I don't think the clubs have got any power over it, to be honest.
Well,
it's the TV companies. Because the TV companies have pumped in several £billion, we've got to pay lip service to it. But, the clubs have to pay lip service to it. But I don't see why the fans should. So if you ever want to organise a protest, do a protest against the TV companies.
Gav, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, basically, the clubs have took their money.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
sold their soul.
Basically, yeah. It's the TV companies can more or less do what they bloody like, and it'll be like I say, the more the TV companies pay, the more they're going to sort of try and change it. If Leicester weren't top, that game wouldn't have got moved in a million years. Okay, if you want to move the game, then you have to compensate the fans that have already paid the tickets to go.
Yeah, spot on. I think they should do that.
Even if the clubs took less money, slightly less money out of the deal, and said, okay, right, but each year X amount is ring fenced to go back to the fans for games that you've moved from a Saturday 3 p.m.
Yeah.
But like I say, I don't know. I've no idea who done the negotiation sort of thing, but obviously, they were thinking about how much money they could get for themselves, rather than the inconvenience and what's better off for the fans. And as my learned colleagues have said earlier, the fans make up the atmosphere of the game. That's why there is a product in the first place. It just seems like it's trying to eat itself. You know what I mean? It's just it just don't make sense. It just don't make sense under it.
Let's move on to let's go into the topic of working with other groups. You guys have alluded to earlier. You've worked with AST, you've worked with Red Action on certain issues and certain protests and certain campaigns. How does that? Do you guys work together a lot, or is it just for certain initiatives, Kelvin? How does that work?
Well, the thing is, I think to begin with, one of the reasons that the BSM was formed in the first place is the fact that those of us that were doing it didn't feel that the existing supporters groups were actually dealing with the issues that really affected us, which is why BSM started. But since then, we've worked with the groups on various different things. Red Action aren't a supporters group; they are a group of really enthusiastic lads and lasses who try and improve the state of affairs for match-going fans by trying to improve the atmosphere with flags and banners and etc. But they won't get involved with things like the board etc. as a group. AST was really about the fan share, and the fan share was an excellent idea that the club fully backed when it first started, and it was even held up in Parliament as a way forward for fans and clubs to be able to work together. Our fan share is now the club of no longer support fan share. AST, there's some great people there working at AST, and the knowledge that they have on the finances of the club is immense. And I think probably with some of the people they've got there, their knowledge of the finance of the club is probably even better than some of those people that are sitting on the board. And we get lots of our information through them. So we all do work together. We all seem to have the same common goal, which is the people that are running our club. With Stan Kroenke, for example, when he first became a majority shareholder, or he was planning to bid to get everybody else's shares, one of the things that he put down in his mission statement was that within a small period of time he was going to meet supporters groups etc. Well, I think the guys at AST will tell you 4 years down the line, they're still waiting to have a meeting with him. And whenever they bring the subjects up at an AGM, it's brushed under the carpet, and Stan Crunk doesn't even bother to answer them. And this is the sort of the thing, if we want to look at the things that are going on in our club, then that's where you've got to look. But yep, supporters groups are working far more closely together now, not just amongst the Arsenal groups, but with the BSM, we've been working with Spirit of Shankly up at Liverpool, Spion Cop at Liverpool, Blue Union up at Everton, the Man United Supporters Trust. We've all held joint protests, if you like, not on the huge scales that we've had with the marches that we've held with the BSM, but these are more like photo opportunities, if you like, where huge banners have been placed inside and outside
or demonstrations.
The ground. With their demonstrations, and those pictures, when they go around the world, you don't have to have thousands of people out on the street. You just need that, you need a message that can get out to millions of supporters around the world. And that's what these things do. I mean, we've seen with a couple of seasons ago, that one image of the guy standing behind the Arsenal bench with an A4 sheet of paper saying spend, spend, spend.
Yeah.
Well, that was one guy, two guys on their own that was doing that, but that image has been seen by tens of hundreds, or not hundreds of thousands of fans around the world. And that's what you need, is get that message out there. And that's what we've been doing with these other supporters groups. And it's been working well. That and the Football Supporters Federation have been trying to coordinate all these individual actions. So there's a lot of stuff that's been going on behind the scenes, and it's starting to come out into the the national football fan is getting to see the benefits of some of the stuff that's gone on behind.
Do you feel that sometimes yourselves, redaction and ASC are sort of like a bit too close together on certain things? Like it just seems to be nowadays, now that fanshare's sort of like gone down the dogs, it does seem like, we're all sort of like, it could be seen as a good thing. We're all talking about the tickets, and that sort of thing. Do you think that there's a lot of overlapping in that now? And go on, Gav.
No, I'm saying, can I answer that? Because obviously I'm sort of like outside of the BSM sort of thing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a good thing that everybody else, the other sort of fan groups, are now sort of clocking on to what the BSM have been saying for 5 or 6 years. Whatever their reasons and their motives, if there is any behind it, I don't really care about, to be honest with you. It's what I want to see from any fan group is looking after the fans' interests, which predominantly is the pricing. So if they have changed their agenda, whether it's to be more popular or, now be, because I mean, we've all seen it. We've all seen people on Twitter and on my Facebook page that 4 or 5 years ago are having a pop at me and having a pop at the BSM because they're protesting about ticket prices. And now, because it's now a national thing to be popular, they're all pretending that, let's protest against ticket prices. And, then people really, it's sort of like, you kind of think to yourself, well, if you'd listened to us 5 or 6 years ago, we might be a couple of years further up the line than we are at the moment. But
yeah, you're right, Gav.
But but like I say, if redaction want to talk about ticket prices as opposed to trying to make an atmosphere, I'm in favour for that. If the AST want to transfer, their main thoughts to ticket prices, I'm up for that. And whatever that Asia lot do, apart from trying to increase ticket prices.
Good band.
I don't know that lot. But do you know what I mean? The main thing is
more exposure, more focus on the real issues.
Exactly. All tarting about over various different things over the years, and it's just nice that everybody is now more or less singing on the same song street, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is that one the redaction put out?
When we first came on the scene, we were treated with a lot of disdain and suspicion.
You're being polite there, Rog.
By the groups and by the majority of fans. And it's been a long slog. It's been 6 years, and we've given up hundreds of hours of our time campaigning for something that not many people believed in or didn't support in 2011, 2010, despite them moaning on about it to their wife and their families and stuff like that, because dissension wasn't something that was acceptable, even though we had the Terry Neal years in the 80s and stuff like that. But so it's been long, and I think we'd be lying to say that each of us haven't been disillusioned by it at times, because there's only so much abuse you can take, and being called all sorts of disgusting things, and trying to just take it on the chin. But it's been worth it, because in the end it had to. And I'll say it 10 times tonight if I have to. It had to go national. It couldn't just stay at club level. The pricing issue, and it has gone national now, and it's starting to work. And everyone, all the groups should take credit for it, because they've been campaigning. It's not just the BSM, but AST as well, and they've had pelters thrown at them from all angles. We've had loads. But I think looking back on it, it's been worth it. I think, and we're kind of moving slowly forward, and I think fans are slowly starting to realise what we're all about and stuff. I mean, there is still a pocket of fans who have made their minds up what the BSM are, and they will never ever change their minds whatsoever. But I know personally loads of fans, people who become friends of mine over the last few years who, started off with a very negative attitude towards the BSM, and now are very much kind of accepting of the group themselves. And I think the only criticism we get now these days is, what are you up to? And it's kind of, it's more kind of working with the national side of things, with the national support, the national supporters federations and stuff, on the club level. But I mean, we'll still be involved at the club side as and when required. But as I said a couple of times before, you can't keep going on at the club for doing things. If they do something, leave them alone for a little bit, But yeah, I mean, it's been a long one, Giles. It's taken a long time,
and still there's more to do. Can we touch really briefly on the atmosphere? I know it's not. I don't know, but the atmosphere at the ground and your personal thoughts on them. A lot of people have said that the club, and I don't want to go on. I don't want to beat the club too much tonight, but people were saying that the way that the ground was made up was not with any fault of the fans. It was more, to do with acoustics and comfort and so on and so forth. We don't have ends, and that sort of takes away from the atmosphere and the culture that that was cultivated going back over many years at Highbury. And I want to ask you guys individually, just briefly, is there anything more that we could do or that could have been done to make a better atmosphere? I'll start with you, Raz, and then Kelvin, and end up with Gav.
I think it's down to the fans, really. I mean, I think Red actually do a brilliant job, and I just don't understand why they get so much abuse for doing something that they want to try and help the atmosphere of the grounds. But in the end, I've always said it's down to us, as match-going fans, to make that atmosphere. We shouldn't need banners and displays and bunting and whatever, to make us, support the team and scream for the team and stuff. So I think the fans need to take a lot more responsibility in the atmosphere. That's what I think, anyway.
Kelvin.
Yep, but the whole makeup of the fan base is completely different from how it was years ago. As Gav mentioned earlier about, as you go back years ago, and as a bunch of sort of teenagers and 20-year-olds, you'd be phoning around in the morning, and you'll all be in the part of the ground all together. Well, now, I've still got about 40 lads that go every single game, but rather than back in the day when we were all sitting together, they're all split up all over the ground. And there are different people sitting next to them every single week. And more often than not, those people that are going there are probably going there for their one game of the season. So they don't necessarily mind paying top dollar for a ticket because it's going to be a special treat for them. But they don't seem to realise that they are part of the event. They seem to just sit there with their phones out, taking pictures of everybody else, trying to get an atmosphere going, and they don't realise that you're actually part of it. You know, and then the guys at Red Action will tell you that, you know, Block 6 was the original allocated area for singers to go, if you like. And in the early days, they had some people that mistakenly went in there and they went off to a different part of the ground. But they've had other people that have gone in there who specifically went there to be part of the singing atmosphere, only to just stand there or sit there and watch everybody else do it. They just don't. It is, Raji's absolutely spot on. It's the fans that need to change it. You know, I don't like the orchestrated stuff of banners on seats and flags and what have you, because it all seems so contrived. It needs to be spontaneous. And there's been cracking games over there where the crowd they've just taken it to another level. But other times you sit there and you think, what the hell's going on here? Something that is completely different when you go to an away game, because our away fans are immense. And I think there could well be a danger, you know, a couple of seasons down the line, where people cotton on to the fact that, oh, going to an away game, it's a cracking atmosphere. And those people that have now gone into Section 6 because they like the atmosphere and aren't participating, will do exactly the same at the away game, and all of a sudden our away fans are diluted in their passion. So that's something that we need to look at. But it's definitely down to the fans. They're the ones that have got to get off their backsides and you know, operate their tonsils and yell for the team no matter what.
Go.
Well, I mean, the atmosphere is a long story. I mean, you were spot on with your introduction. I mean, the ground isn't designed for good atmosphere, full stop. But what the club could do is they could actively encourage atmosphere instead of what they tend to be doing, which is actively discouraging. I mean, I read a letter and had a chat with a woman, must have been about 2 weeks now. She got a letter from Arsenal saying due to constant standing and swearing, she's banned for 3 days, for 3 games. And banned from actually going any away games during that time too. I said to her, did the stewards come up and say sit down, or can you tone your language down, or was you in the family enclosure? She went, no, I was in the block B in the North Bank behind the goal. And they didn't even warn her; they just banned her for 3 games. And I said, have you been back? She went, yeah, my ban passed. I went back. She went, I'm 5'2". I sat down the whole game and I didn't see any of it. So, with actions like that, and like I say, that isn't an isolated incident. The club are actually, I mean, whereas that woman would have been vocal, now she's minding her P's and Q's and she's sitting on her bum a lot. And you can't get a decent atmosphere in a football ground with everybody sitting on their ass. Roger, tell you, Roger, your concerts, everyone stands up.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Would be appalled if I didn't.
Yeah,
well, exactly.
I think there's, if you go to anything, you go to any concert, people are on their feet. The band are on their feet. The only person who ever made a living out of sitting down and singing was Val Doonican.
Yeah. But I mean, it's little things. I mean, Crystal Palace, for God's sake, right? Let's get this right. You go back to the 80s. We used to go to that ground and have 3/4 of the ground, and we used to completely drown them out. Now they've actively encouraged, or they kind of allow this little group of lads to.
I think the club and the fans. It was an initiative from the club and the fans that came about in the playoff final, and it's just carried on into their ascension in the Premier League. But yeah, go on.
But I mean, that little corner that they originally had, now the whole of that end is quite lively the whole game. Yeah. And like I say, it's little things that the club could do to actively encourage atmosphere. Will eventually make it as good as it was at Highbury. But I'd say the other issue that you've got is that if you think that all the away fans that go to get a ticket for an away game, you have to have a season ticket. So that 3,000-4,000 that go away every week and make that kind of racket on an away game, why aren't they making? Well, I can answer my own question really. They're not making that racket inside the Emirates because they don't go. A lot of them, and like I say, I know a good dozen of them, personally, look, they sell their tickets on for the home games. They just go to the away games.
It's because they're all split up, aren't they?
Well, exactly. I mean, even when you go away, I mean, you get your away ticket and you've got your seat number, and if you've got a ticket on your own and your three mates are half a dozen rows away, you go and stand with them and you all budge up together.
Yeah.
And there's just lots of things. I mean, like I know I've spoke with Kelvin and Raj in the past about what would be ideal for atmosphere, and talk about safe standing, which would be brilliant because, like I say, away fans stand anyway. All away fans, more or less every ground stand, block 6 stand. But if you're in block 3 and you stand up at the wrong time, you get a free game ban. It just don't make sense. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the ideal scenario really would be a safe standing area where literally the first 1,000 people that come through can go and stand in that block today. And what will happen with that is what used to happen in the days of the North Bank.
Yeah.
Is you'd make sure that you turned up on time so that you got your spot.
Yeah.
So you got your favourite spot, and your mates would turn up, and it just creates it. You can't. And silver membership, for example, you can only when you go to book a silver game for a silver ticket for a game, you can only book up 4 tickets together. So, like myself and my mates, between us, we could probably rustle up about 8 or 9 silver tickets between us. But we can't all sit together.
Yeah, there's active.
More nights if we was all. Do you know what I mean?
They've actively.
It's a little initiatives like that that could be done. Look, would actively encourage it. I mean, I go along with the points that Raj and Kelvin made. Look, it's down to everybody to make their point, but you've just got to encourage it slightly. Do you know what I mean? You've just got to say, right, okay, if there's 8 or 9 of you with silver tickets, book up together. Like they do with the supporters clubs, like with the Scottish and the Manchester supporters clubs. If they want 10 tickets together or whatever, they get their 10 tickets together. There should be more of that. And the other thing is the age of supporters. When I first started going Arsenal, like I say, there would be anything up to a dozen of us, like 13, 14, 15 all going together. And you don't see that anymore. The Young Guns enclosure that they did fell flat on its arse for 2 reasons. Firstly, how many sort of 15-year-olds have got their own credit card that they can book a ticket up with? And secondly, they didn't want to sort of be in this area where they're treated like kids and they're surrounded by stewards and they're sort of controlled. The club really have got to sort of let go of some of the control and let supporters sort of take over. But I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
The Young Guns enclosure was an excellent idea. In as much that they wanted to get the 12 to 16-year-olds all together, and so that they could have what we had back in the day, right? And there'd be no adults allowed in there, right? But it was never going to be for a Category A game, right? And to be perfectly honest, I think it's something that they paid lip service to, because I don't think it's been advertised that well, because I'm certain there are plenty of kids out there that would love to pay a tenner to go into the ground and not have to be with their old man, and to be able to sit there with their mates. But because I don't think it's publicised that well, people don't necessarily know that it exists so much. I think it's one of those things where the clubs we'll do it to show that we're willing, but I think they're probably secretly hoping that it's going to fall flat on its face, because there's 1,000 tickets there that are only selling for 10 quid when they could be sold for 35.
Well, I mean,
maybe it's the old cynic in me coming out.
It's always the last area to sell out. And like I say, the other part on that as well is, like I say, the kids and the teenagers that I've spoke to on Twitter and on my Facebook page and that go, they feel that they're sort of like they're being treated a little bit sort of too firmly and too like kids by the stewards. Whereas, like I say, when I guess going back to the junior gunner days, you had the sort of couple of junior gunners reps floating about and trying to have a laugh and a giggle with you, as opposed to sort of trying to be a bit strict and sort of curtailing your enthusiasm, so to speak. But it's just not right. And again, if you've got sort of 14 or 15-year-olds, it's all right on Saturday at 3 o'clock or But who's going to let their 14 or 15-year-old travel to a game that's been moved to a Monday night?
Yeah.
But they certainly don't now. But I mean, we all did back in the day, and it's different times as far as that's as far as that side of things is concerned. But I mean, the support is there, and the worrying thing about with the youngsters that want to go to the games, if you go to the Carling Cup matches or whatever they want to call it now, you go down Holloway Road and you will see groups of 20 lads who are sort of 14, 15, 16 years of age, all come out from the same school. When they're walking along Holloway Road, they're singing the Arsenal songs, slightly out of tune, probably don't even know all the words, but the enthusiasm is there. They've got it. They want to be part of it, right?
Yeah.
But the more often that they can't get to go to a game, the more chance they'll find something else to do on a Saturday afternoon, on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, and what they'll do, someone would turn around and say, I managed to get hold of your 2 tickets. Next week we're playing West Brom at home. Do you fancy it? Oh no, I'm going paintballing now. And it's like, well, you got your chance. Yeah, but I can't be bothered. I'll watch it on the telly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you're going to end up losing in the future. I think there's a report that came out a little while ago that said the average age of the Arsenal season ticket holder is 44. It's one of the highest in the country because we don't encourage the youngsters to come along. They either have to sit in the young guns enclosure or they have to go in the family enclosure. And if they don't do that, they have to pay full price.
Yeah. I was going to make a very good point, Kelvin. It was something I was going to ask you all. In our pods recently, we've talked about the average age of the Arsenal supporter, the home supporter, and we reckon it's anywhere between 45 and 60. You've got a majority of those that support base. They're probably going to have be of a certain income level, and if they can't be bothered to go, it's not that big a deal for them. The season ticket is a sort of a disposable asset to some. Let's say, is there anything the club can do in terms of making those tickets available to these people? Now, let me just give you another point to this question, another part of this question. I'm not that age. I'm not your age group, guys. I know Gav, me and Gav ain't your age group. Right? Right. But
bloody hell. Come on my podcast and I'll take the piss out of you, Raj.
Yeah, I've been insulted in better places than this.
The second part of my question is this, if you've got individuals of that age can't be bothered to get on ticket exchange and this and that and go through all the whole rigmarole of putting your ticket on and the thing crashing and waiting hours, wouldn't it be easier if the club had a sort of simple text message system where they said to you, put your tickets on, let us know within a certain time frame whether you want to sell your tickets or if you're going to buy it, and if not, after this period we're going to put it on for general sale out. So they'll just text you once the ticket's been sold. Can't they do something similar to that to make it easier for people of that age group?
Yeah, I think make their tickets available. The thing is, Giles, it is an easy process and it can be done. And the thing is that the best people to speak to on how it can be done is the guys at AST, because they've done a lot of work behind the scenes on this sort of thing. I mean, it was them and I think someone from ASA who put the Young Guns idea to the club, and it's them that come up with a lot of these initiatives that you find. It's the ordinary supporter who has spent their own time and money trying to do something for the club, and there should be people in the club that are doing this. But for some reason they don't seem to want to be interested in looking at that. They seem to look at other things, and most of the initiatives that you find have come from supporters groups and people who have done their own time and money and doing some research on it. And as far as making tickets available right up to maybe midday on the day of a game, or let's say 2 hours before kickoff or something like that. Speak to the guys from the AST because they will give you all the facts and figures on how that can be done.
Right.
I'd let the supporters set their own ticket prices as well, because I travel for my work and there are certain home games I can't make, and so I'll try and sell it on Ticket Exchange. Some of the games will sell, but there's certain games every season you can't give that seat away. So rather than trying to sell it on Ticket Exchange for 50 quid, I'd take 25 quid for it. just to get some money back. But it's down to the club. The solutions are there. We're in 2016, ticketing, electronic ticketing, and all that. I mean, you can sell tickets at concerts now, and have it come up on your iPhone.
Yeah,
and you just scan it in as you walk in, and a lot of bands are doing that now.
Yeah.
And it's the solutions there. The question is whether the club are inclined to do that, because for them, they've already got their money for that seat. So are they going to go the extra mile and hire in an IT expert to get a few extra quid for that seat by a certain deadline? It would certainly improve the attendances with bums on seats and stuff. So you wouldn't see certain games having 5,000 empty seats and stuff like that, because some kids have been able to come in and buy a ticket for 15 quid, even though the club have already got the money from the season ticket. The kid can come in and buy a ticket for 15 quid. So the solutions are there. It's whether the club want to do it. That's the big question.
I think, like say that the club are missing a trick. I think really, look, if they had a system in place for these, I mean, we're talking really not about the people that, like yourself, Raj, who miss a couple of games here and there because of work and have to put it on Ticket Exchange. We're talking about the people that don't bother putting it on the Ticket Exchange because they buy their season ticket so they're guaranteed a ticket for their 6 or 7 big games a year. Which, if they didn't have, if they didn't have a season ticket, these are the sort of people that would have no problems whatsoever with 200-300 to a tout outside anyway. So to them, it's actually cost effective. What the club should do really for those sort of people, we say, well, look, we understand that you don't want to go to the games. Why don't you donate your seat to a charity? Why don't you donate your seat to the Arsenal Foundation for the games that you don't want to go? So I think there'll be a lot more people that will be more willing to go the extra mile to make sure that there's a bum on the seat for that game if they knew that it was going to charity, because them sort of people with that sort of money, they're quite easy to spend 400 or 500 quid at a bloody charity night anyway.
Yeah, it's disposable income.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like I say, you've got to sort of incentivize that, and if they feel that they're doing something good out of not turning up, then maybe it'll actively encourage them to do it. And like I say, as Rod said, let people set their price. Let them set a lower price, and the money goes to the Arsenal Foundation or goes to Willow or goes to whatever the Arsenal charity. Yeah, exactly. And they could do some. I think that'll put more bums on seats. I mean, ideally, I would say donate the ticket and give it to local kids that are doing well at school. I mean,
there's many initiatives they can go for.
Exactly. I mean, before I moved previously, I used to live in Hoxton, and when I used to leave to go to a game, you see all the kids on the parks and on the fields, and they're all wearing Arsenal shirts, and you're thinking, I bet none of these are going to the game today. And it used to break my heart. Do you know what I mean? By the time I used to get on the bus to take me a mile up the road, I would have seen sort of like 20 kids wearing Arsenal shirts, and you knew they weren't going to the game, and that's kind of a bit heartbreaking, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're the people that, in 10, 15, 20 years' time, they're the ones that are going to be the season ticket holders. So, I don't know.
The last question is always going to be how interested is the club in wanting to do this, and I have my doubts whether they're very interested whatsoever, because they've got, as I keep saying, they've got their money. They've got their money for those seats. So why would they want to? Do they have any interest in bringing on the next generation? Because they haven't done much really to try and solve that problem. Because where's my if I I can't see myself stop going to the Arsenal, but if I did, my seat would go to some other bloke. There's always a demand. The problem is there's a demand for seats all the time. I could stop going, and my seat would be sold instantly to someone else. There's a massive waiting list. So I'd have to challenge the club and say, are you actually proactively trying to address these problems, or are you not bothered? Because we're now in a corporate kind of football world now where money is king. We've said before, billions of pounds coming into the game from TV companies and stuff. All the clubs are going to benefit from that from next season onwards. So, are they motivated to look at the kind of the wider social issues of fan attendance? I don't think they are, to be honest.
I'm mindful of the time that we, at the time. I know Raj, you're pretty knackered. You've got things to do as well. So I'm very mindful of time, and I just want to bring the conversation sort of almost full circle. But before I do that, I want to ask you guys about sort of the individual process that we're seeing more and more these days, and what it, and the good or otherwise that it does, the traction it can gain, and whether BSM. What's your position on those sort of individual protests? So first of all, Gav, I want to ask you, what do you think of these individual processes that we're seeing more and more? Do you think it's good that it's channeling the focus to the major issues at the club?
Well, I mean, personally, I'm a bit of a whore these days. So whoever's protesting about something that I feel is the right thing to do, then I'll go along with them. And like I say, the majority of the time I'll go along with the majority of things that the BSM do. On my Facebook page, and indeed sometimes I try and get that across on Twitter, I say to people, empower yourselves. If you're pissed off about ticket prices, then, you whack something up on the computer and print it off, or write something on a bit of paper and hold it up. If you're pissed off about Wenger, do the same. Get some stickers run up. Empower yourself to do it, because the more little groups that are of mates that are sort of getting involved in this, and sort of enjoy getting their message across, even though it might be sort of small, they're more inclined when it comes to a real issue that everybody's behind to actually join in on a larger protest. So, like I say, people pay their money if they want to. If somebody wants to pay 62 quid to stand behind the goal and hold the sign up, what a waste of bloody money, or or Wenger out, or spend the money, then they should be allowed to do it. Look, just get on with it and empower yourselves.
Raj, just really quickly before I move on to another subject. What do you think? And what is BSM's position when you see all these other sort of protests and whatnot?
I mean, you're talking to someone who's part of a group that's organised 2 marches against the club. Sure. So the way I see it is, if you want to protest about something, then you can do what you want. I'll choose whether to join that protest or not. But I'm not going to stop someone from saying something. You can say Wenger in as much as you want, and you can say Wenger out as much as you want. You can go on about ticket prices, whatever. But in the end, it's my choice to join that protest or not. So I'm not going to stop anyone from saying what they want, within reason, obviously.
Okay. So finally, want to know what the future is for BSM. In terms of what happens next, what you guys got planned. Are you sort of looking at reshaping or, relaunching anything? What's going on in that respect, Raj?
I think Kelvin can help me with this one, but I think it's just carrying on, really. I mean, it's not a 24/7 thing that we do. And it's impossible to do that. And there isn't a supporters group in this country that does it 24/7. You look at an issue, you campaign for it, and then you wait and you carry on with another issue. You talk to other clubs, you keep communicating to people. But you can't keep going on and on and on about certain things. You've got to give it time and stuff like that. But Kelvin, what else are we doing?
Kelvin's not on the call.
Is he gone? Is he?
Yeah, I'm trying to get him back into the call. We're having a separate conversation.
Giles, it just bubbles away, and then when something comes up, we'll try and address it and stuff, And we'll always listen to people. We'll always talk to people. I think most people know how to contact me on Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So, but as I said, if you expect BSM announcements every day or every week or whatever, it's not going to happen. It'll come as and when it's needed. But our focus at the moment is more on a national level than it is at a club level.
So you're happy, because obviously you've got Asia and ASC that have their regular meetings. You guys have got a massive membership Or is that right? Yeah, you guys have got. Is it the biggest membership, Arsenal membership and supporter club? I think.
I'm not one to brag and stuff like that.
No.
We got members.
But okay, you've got members, and
we got a couple of members down the pub, you know.
One man.
There's a few thousand out there. Yeah.
So I mean, but you have no desire to sort of like have regular meetings. Do you think that's not? Is that not a BSM sort of thing? Is that not what you're about?
It was never a policy of ours to rule by committee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if someone put their hands and said, "I want to go and do this," we'll say, "Go for it. What do you need any help from us? What do you want us to do?" But it wasn't a forum. It wasn't a committee. It's just a group of mates that originally started this 7 years ago, and we'll carry on talking. We've got our connections now at national and club level. People know who we are. It's down to the people themselves now to decide whether they're for or against us. But we'll respect their opinions, you know, and we'll carry on doing what we have to do. But it's not going to be something that happens every day, you know.
And what's your relationship with the club? I mean, is it thawed over the years, or I mean,
yeah, I think it has now. Yeah. We had a couple of meetings early. The first meeting was, I mean, I wasn't there myself. Kelvin was there, but that was one just where they were just suspicious of us. The billboard killed off any meetings for a while after that. And then there's been subsequent meetups as well. I'm pretty sure we're still not flavour of the month with them because we're a bit more aggressive than other clubs, you know, other supporters groups. But I think our achievements have been kind of that we have been recognised by our fellow Arsenal supporters groups, and we work closely with them now. And also, just as importantly, by the national supporters groups as well, by all the other club supporters groups. So, you know, it doesn't matter whether the club like us or not. We're not there to you know.
The original intention was never to sort of have any dialect with the club anyway. I mean, say some of the early drink ups, and when sort of like a dozen of us sat down and had a serious chat about where the BSM was going about 5 years ago. The original intention was never to be cosy with the club, and never really just to speak to them. Was just to sort of be a bit of a pain in the arse. And like I said,
I think they still see us as a pain in the arse. I mean, they're the ones who first invited us to a meeting, and that meeting was a bit of a disaster in some ways because they just didn't understand what we were going on about and stuff like that. And then, as you said, Ivan Gazidis just went absolutely ballistic when he saw the billboard, because every time he looked out the window with his cup of tea, there was a huge thing said "forward?" ? You know. So that ruined his month and a half in September a few years ago. And I think they'll always see us with suspicion and stuff, but they also know that we're here to stay, and so that every now and again there might be a little bit of dialogue and stuff. But we'll just carry on working, you know. We're campaigning for the fans. I mean, if there are fans still out there who still dislike us or don't like what we do and stuff, then come and talk to us. But we are, you know, it's not as if we've all got full-time jobs, and we've got families and other interests in lives and other responsibilities as well. But we're quite happy to give up our own time to do this. So why mock us? I've never understood that. Maybe it's fear. I don't know.
Okay, let's wrap it up. I want to ask you generally now about the Arsenal season. You know, how the season's going to end for us. Gav, what do you think? Go on.
We should have won the league this year. We should be sitting at the moment about 5 points above Leicester, completely crapping ourselves that we might blow winning the league, as opposed to sitting 8 or 11 points behind on whatever way you want to look at it, and sitting 3 points below Tottenham, shitting ourselves because we might finish below Tottenham. It's getting knocked out. Watford will rank and will really piss me off. I mean, I'm still pissed off about losing the semi in '91. So, do you know what I mean? The depth of hurt that I feel when we lose, and losing to West Ham at home in '88 in the cup fucking hurts as well. Losing the final to Liverpool when we pissed all over them in Cardiff, that really hurts. And Watford, unfortunately, is up there with that because.
Hello, Kelvin.
Hello, Kelvin.
Go on, Gav. Go on. We're talking about the end of the season.
But yeah, no, it's like I say. we should have beat. Why? How the hell we didn't beat Watford? Do you know what I mean? Is just going to rank on me. And what is really disappointing is that at the end of the season, I mean, we've got Villa at home the last game. That'll be a good piss up and a good meet up for everybody. But the highlight of the seasons really are unfortunately the big games with the big attendances. So, like some of the people that don't come out every game, and everybody, and I'm guilty of that myself, but everybody's out and everybody's up for a good day and everybody has a good drink and a good laugh, and it's the fact that there isn't going to be a big social like that at the end of this season is pissing me off, because it was Watford. Do you know what I mean? And like I say, the league games that we've blown have been disgusting. The fact that we creeped and crawled out the Champions League groups and got second place again, so that we go out the last 16 again, and all this could have been quite easily fixed by 2 or 3 astute signings in the summer, or 1 or 2 astute signings in January. And I mean, to me, Wenger's just cocked it up this year. He couldn't have cocked it up more if he liked. I mean, we're points down on where we were this time last year. Some of his substitutions this year and selections for games have just completely had me scratching my head, and I just don't understand, no matter what happens at the end of the season, how he can continue in the job. I really, really can't, because it's going to be worse next year. I mean, imagine this year if Chelsea hadn't imploded on themselves, Man City had a bit of stability. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool, Klopp finally got a few more of his own players in. We could have been sitting at 4th or 5th. I mean, we're 3 points above West Ham, and we've got to go to theirs to play them. Do you know what I mean? It's been dire. Some of the games. I mean, we haven't even played good football this year. You can count more games that we played good football than games that we ain't. It's just been absolutely fucking horrendous at times. Really, I just can't work it out. Like I say, the only solution to me is, if all the signs and everything you hear from the board is the fact that the money's there, and we see the accounts every 6 months, so everybody knows that the money's there. Now, either Cronkies don't want to spend the money, or Wenger don't want to spend the money. Now, Wenger's been there for coming up for bloody 20 years now. There's no way in the world, if Wenger said in the summer, look, I found a striker, I think he's going to win us the league, I really want him, he's 40 million. The club would not say no to him. There's no way in the world they would have said no to him. And literally, that's where we are. I mean, we've scored, this season will probably end up with the fewest goals scored by us in about 25, 30 years. And to have that much money sitting in the bank, and the fact that we still haven't replaced Van Persie, it's just shocking. It's just complete mismanagement. Anyway, Wenger out.
That could have been a podcast in itself. Kelvin, I want to bring you in before you drop out again.
Yes, I'm sorry, I've got no idea what that was. I probably missed the best part of the pod as well.
Give us your thoughts on the scene, with the running.
Well, it's been. I mean, people don't understand why we're complaining about it, to be perfectly honest. But they're not us. They don't see this season after season of the potential. We've had it there. We've always known for several seasons. Decent centre back, decent midfielder, and a decent striker. We're there. The league is there for the taking. And we've had to live with the last 10 years of all this stuff about we've had to compete with the money at Man City and Chelsea. Well, what's the excuse going to be this year when Leicester and Tottenham finish above us? There isn't that excuse they can use anymore. This league was there for the taking this year, and we've given it away. As Gav, I just got on here with some of the substitutions that Wenger has made. Don't understand some of the stuff that he does at times. I think there's a growing campaign now that he's got to go. Even ex-players have sort of said, if you don't change time to move on, etc. So there's nothing new that hasn't been said, a while ago. It's just that there's more people that are saying it now, and those people that have been taking the banner to away games and getting abuse off fellow fans. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and I think it even shows with that banner the amount of respect that people still have for Arsene Wenger, for what he has achieved with the club. That's got to be the most politest banner anywhere around. Okay, there's nobody's turning around saying "fuck off, Wenger, out of my club, and hope you die" or whatever. They're not getting any of that. It's thank you very much for the memories, but it's time to say goodbye. And I think it probably is the time to go. We've tried looking at trying to find people to blame other than Arsene Wenger, but at the end of the day, he's got to look himself in the mirror and say, what could I have done differently? And if he thinks that there's nothing he could have done differently, then it is time for him to move on. It's been such a disappointing season for what could have happened for us. But there you go. Everyone falls down in the end, and I think for what he has achieved for us in the club, I don't want him going down the route of Brian Clough staying somewhere for far too long, and losing the plot, if you like. And it's only 20 years, 30 years after Clough achieved everything we did with Nottingham Forest that people realise what he did. For what Wenger has done for us, when he eventually goes, he should be able to leave the club with his head held high and say, this is what I've achieved. But unfortunately, I can't listen to the guy on the TV anymore when he does his interviews, because it's Groundhog Day. It's the same excuses over and over again, and it's like playing that office bingo. You're just waiting for the mental strength contact phrase to come out, and and stuff like that. It's so repetitive. If you realise these things are wrong, do something about it. And Arsene, if it's the board that aren't giving you the money to do it, come out and say so. Yeah. And come out and tell us. And I tell you now, the fans will be behind you 100% if you come out and said something like that. But what we're having to deal with is it's always round about this time of year when season ticket renewals are coming out. Arsene Wenger's got yet another war chest of money to go out and buy players. Well, if that's true, if that's what the board are saying, okay, and there is money there for him to do so, and he doesn't spend it, then the board aren't doing their job right by the fans of the club by holding him to account over it. Someone somewhere has got to stand up and start telling the truth about what's going on.
And I think it's going to be a scrap of 6 or 7 clubs for the top 4 spots next year. So I think we've blown it. But it would be typically Arsenal for us to go on an 8-game winning run now and actually win the thing.
It's their bonus. It's the players. The biggest bonus the players get is getting into the top 4.
Well, they're going to have to start winning some games.
God, yeah.
For them to do that, with West Ham 3 points behind us. But I'm crossing my fingers. I think Leicester are in the middle of a boys' own story at the moment, and I think they'll do it, to be honest. And if we don't do it, I do hope that they do it, because there's another team in between us that none of us want to end up top. So that's what I've got to say.
Indeed. All right. Okay. I want to wrap it up now. I want to thank both Kelvin and Raj from BSM for coming on and sort of explaining who you are, what you do, and basically how people can get in contact with them. You see, Raj's personal handle is at Raj Patel 1809. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep. Kelvin, your Reg Blackscarf at Reg Blackscarf. Is that right? Gav.
That's correct.
Gav is at Shewore. You know him. I want to thank them all for coming on. I hope the listeners, have learned something, have found it informative and whatnot. And, if not, just give us your feedback and we'll try and do something about it. Watch out for us next week. We're going to have another special next week. And obviously the post-Watford game podcast will be coming out soon as well. Catch us on all the platforms. I want to thank you all for listening and these guys for speaking to me. That's been a Gooner Ramble podcast. Good night.